Continuing the spots on Verrières Ridge, I am at Troteval Farm. There's a memorial here to the Mont-Royal Fusiliers, as they took this position as part of Operation Atlantic. There's some back and forth fighting here with First SS in holding this position. You can see it explained here a little bit, so I'll just hold it here so you can pause and read the plaque. And then move over here if you want the French. So the Fusiliers take this position on July 20th behind the rolling barrage that has supporters and detractors, particularly in this war. They're able to take this position on the 20th, face heavy counterattacks from the 1st SS. Also up at the farm, up there on the ridge, a little higher, you can see his Verrières Farm. This is an aerial photo of both Verrières and Troteval Farm taken on July 9th, which is the time around where Caen is falling, and very little combat had taken place in this area. This aerial photo is from August 7th, which is just before Operation Totalize begins, and you can see the high number of tank tracks and everything else to show the ferocity of the fighting in and around the farms. There's not as much good spots to park up there, so I can't really go up there. I don't want to get in their way. It looks like they're doing something. This is all still working farm. So that was another position that's taken and then lost and then recaptured. So this was also a jump off point for Operation Totalize. So it was an important position to take and hold. You can see it rising off in the distance there. Made some canine friends in the background. So you can have a toehold on this ridge so you're not having to take it all on the day. Some mixed opinion on that. Some say took too many heavy losses to keep trying to take this place because of the 1st SS and the whole elite thing and fanaticism and blah blah blah. I don't know, I think it does provide a good jump off point, especially because how successful Totalize is, despite what people argue. It takes this whole area and they don't reach their full objectives, but they reach enough for me to say it's successful. And I think holding these places makes a big difference. This place, again, is a seesaw battle, multiple operations to take and hold. Eventually it's taken and held, and the advance continues on to Falaise. Operation Spring is often synonymous with failure when it comes to Canada. However, there was minor successes, one of them being the Royal Hamilton Light Infantry, the Rileys. They took Verrieres, the village where I am in now, on the day, the 25th, and held it against counterattacks and from the SS over and over again, and hold on. Some of the other ones weren't so lucky, but this one in particular did. This aerial photo of Verrieres comes from July 26th, the day after the launching of Operation Spring. The arrow indicates the direction of the German counterattacks, and as you can see by the numerous tank tracks left on the fields, you can see the ferocious nature of the German counterattacks on the Riley's position. So I was looking at the plaque here before I started filming, and a lot of you know I have an issue with how things are presented in terms of the SS, right? And how this myth came that they're this elite unit. We're doing it ourselves, right? We're making the enemy seem better than they were, which makes our successes look better, right? And yet it hasn't really worked, right? Everyone says, oh, you know, you only beat the SS because of numbers or supply or logistics or whatever, even though that's all entirely part of total war. We just keep adding to this narrative that the SS were better. And it hasn't worked to make ourselves seem better. It's done the opposite. They are presented as better than us in every way, shape, or form. We won through luck or brute force or whatever. And I've seen these words in works from 70s, 80s, up until published last year, which 2023. So this stuff doesn't go away. It's still being used and still influencing how people think, particularly fighting on Verrières Ridge, where I am right now. So that's just something to think about. So here's the church, and there's also a plaque up here for Totalize, right? Because this was used as the jumping off point, which is further ahead because it was held onto, right, by the Rileys of 2nd Division. So this was put up in memory of the 2nd Division. So this spot on Verrières Ridge that, contrary to popular thinking on the subject, actually went well. And they held into this position with attacks coming from up over here. They weren't dug in just here, but right around the town and in it. But that's the side the attacks were coming from. And they came up over this way. Again, it's quite a little village now, so you can't see too much, but all of the ridge looks very similar. I'm literally standing just outside the village of Tilly-la-Campagne, right behind me. You can see this is the newer part. All of the village is relatively new because it was smashed in the fighting, but these are some newer homes. In front of me is Bourguébus. We're on Bourguébus Ridge right now, so I'm looking down into the town. So Bourguébus is taken as part of Goodwood by British troops. 3rd Canadian Infantry Division is transferred into this sector for spring. So the objective of Tilly was given to the North Nova Scotia Highlanders to take. It does not go well. That's another part of spring that is pretty much an abject failure and causes a lot of high casualties for the North Novas in this area. Because again, these villages aren't as close as they might seem on the day. This aerial photo shows both Bourguébus, which is in the top half of the photo, and Tilly in the bottom left corner. You can see here the distance between them is greater than it looks today, with wide open farmland in between them, as it is today, but a lot more of it. The arrow indicates the direction of the multiple North Nova attacks into Tilly itself. See, these houses ahead of us in Bourguébus are fairly new. You can see a church steeple back a ways. So you can zoom in a little bit. Right there, kind of just left of the path in front of me. That would mark kind of the older part. So they would come forward up through this clear area, right, and try to get in to the town behind us, which the SS troops had dug into with tanks and all throughout it. So it turned into this pitch, almost small urban battle of back and forth, counterattacks back and forth. Really wanted to take Tilly as part of the jump-off point for later operations, which becomes Totalize, as we know. So this is an area that doesn't fall to the Allies until Totalize itself. So when British troops are transferred back into this sector, and they are given the objective of taking Tilly and moving on through it to the other side. So that's what happens around here. It's some brutal fighting on another ridge. Verrières Ridge is off in this distance, way out there. This is another small but blood-soaked field where many Canadians died fighting. So I mentioned all of Tilly is relatively new. I'll find some photos and everything to show what happened to Tilly, because a lot of the fighting took place inside the village itself. This is an aerial photo taken of Tilly on July 27th, days just after the launching of Operation Spring. And this is Tilly again on August 7th. You can see quite the stark difference between the two photos. So another bit of ground that has many operations running across it. Again, some successful, some not so.